So the early access beta for Diablo 4 is now done as of Monday. It's going to return again as an open beta for everyone to try this upcoming Friday. I can only imagine how busy the servers might be then. Hopefully they have that sorted out. So this game does have a customization option. It's mixed in with the transmog system that lets you change the design or the look of your gear or armor based on gear you pick up and salvage. It's there if you want to mess with it. So as for the character's overall face and stuff like that, most of that you're not going to see unless you're playing the story mode and you see yourself during the cutscene. So I really didn't mess around too much with that. But I mean, it's there if you want to change your character's look and design. But for me, I just thought, okay, I'm not going to see my character's face that often because I mostly want to focus on open world events and doing side quests and stuff like that. But even though they got things sorted out after the first day of the early access beta, I mean, that was only for pre-orders. You still got to consider that this Friday, like the entire world is going to have access to Diablo 4 beta. So hopefully they can, get way more servers to accommodate all the connections because I don't want to go into that problem again. I just want to jump in, play the game and kind of experiment and see what it has to offer all over again. I was having a lot of fun though, but I'll be honest, like the first maybe 6 hours of leveling up and, being a low level, having a very slow progression, I thought, this is really slow. I want to build a character, have a lot of skills, lots of gear to mess with, and really kind of dive into the whole system and try to figure out what to create in terms of an actual damaging build. During the beta, you can only max out your character to level 25, and there was also a huge amount of the map you had to uncover on foot, but of course you could fast travel between towns and then later on you have to walk the rest of the way. It was a bit of a chore walking around. However, there is a mount or a horse you can unlock in the game, but it seems like it's only accessed later in the story mode, which we did not have access to. When it comes to the crafting in the game, it seems like there's a lot of materials to get, but not too many things that you won't really understand how to use because it really tells you where you have to find specific materials to upgrade your gear to make it stronger. So it's not going to be too confusing. Like within time, you should be able to understand these mechanics and these systems within the game because I don't want to get overwhelmed by certain things within the game that just takes way too long to understand. If it's a bit more simple, then I'll stick around and play it even longer. Some people are saying that the veteran difficulty setting might be too easy for them and even easier within a group. But what I have to say is this felt like the normal difficulty setting, and if you have a strong build, of course it's going to seem overpowered. However, if you play the same build on the higher difficulty settings where enemies have more HP and do more damage, then maybe your overpowered build might not be so strong. I do like the addition of these timed events like the zones and also the world boss like Ashava. I believe there's 4 of them in the full game, but we only could play against one of them. I think these are pretty cool, but at the same time I can understand how some people out there are going to be annoyed by these because if they are timed events, that means you gotta be there when it's going to start. If you're not home, if you're not available, or you cannot get online, then you're going to miss out and you're not going to get those precious loot drops in the game from that special event or the world boss. Yeah, I know, it's going to bother some people out there if they don't have time to actually access this world boss when it appears at a certain time throughout the week. So, I mean, what can you do? They're trying something different in Diablo 4. It's not going to be Diablo 1 or Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. They're trying something different, so it's not going to be the same. I also want to talk about dungeons because this seems to be a topic within the beta that a lot of people are kind of not too pleased about. It's because this might seem very repetitive, doing it so many times throughout the day or in a week, doing dungeons over and over again. But look at it this way. In Diablo 3, you also had to do some things like doing rifts, doing bounties, doing greater rifts, how many times in a day? It's the same thing. Something within a game like this is going to have a feature or a special activity that does seem repetitive. And what I think is they're not going to change this because this is pretty much the game. This is Diablo 4, so either you accept it or you don't. Like other games, even inside MMOs, you have to do something very repetitive over and over to get special gear or upgrades for your character. So I don't think that's going to change within the final version of the game. So dungeons might be here to stay. Either you like it or you don't. The density of the enemies in this game is not like in Diablo 3, which I've played for a couple of years, and I've noticed in greater rifts of Diablo 3, you'll have tons of enemies in a huge cluster all over a map that can swarm you, but that's a little bit different in this game, especially during dungeons where enemies are mostly centered within a certain area, and you don't have as many enemies in this game, attacking you at once. Well, unless of course maybe you go to the open world section and drag a bunch of enemies from one cluster to another, that's different. But that doesn't happen too often. But once again, our character limit was only at 25, so it's nowhere near the end game status of Diablo 4. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I mean, for all we know, it could revert to the same thing as Diablo 3's endgame, where you create a strong build, then rush from one section to another, taking out all the enemies and rushing to another. That could happen, but for now, I was enjoying the slower pace of the game with a lot smaller density with the enemies. So it felt like I could manage everything on my own, and I was enjoying exploring everything by myself. I also noticed that during the beta, the drop rate of legendary items was pretty high. I could do one dungeon, and after about 8 minutes of completing it, I'd walk out with maybe up to 4 legendary items, and that is way too high, yeah. I mean, in the final version of the game, that might be changed, because I think during the beta, that might have been done intentionally, so it gives you access to more items, to create more builds, and test out different things of what is working, what is not working, and what is possibly too overpowered. There were only 2 parts within this game where I ever noticed any kind of performance issue. The first one is every time you load into town, I guess because it's connecting to other players around the world, and also when you're leaving town, connecting to the open world section. Other than that, doing activities like fighting the world boss, exploring the world itself, doing time zone events and dungeons, I never experienced any performance issues or frame drops. So for me, the game seems to run fine. I had a lot of fun playing the Diablo 4 beta, and I'm glad they actually gave us some portion of the game to test out. This way, I can kind of get an idea of what to expect, because sometimes you gotta play the game yourself to see if you'll like it. Sure, watching the video or watching someone else play it might give you an idea of what it's like, but sometimes you just have to play it yourself and kind of get immersed into the game and see if you'll like it or not. So this past weekend, the beta was closed off to pre-orders, but this next weekend, the whole public will access the beta for free. So if this is something you did have some interest in trying, then I would recommend you do try out the open beta this weekend. Who knows? You might actually like the game and end up buying it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.